Welcome to Know Your Money. I'm your host, Bronwyn Wayner. With me is Craig Finch, my business partner from Growth Financial Planning. Joining us today and every day is our sound engineer, Warren Grimsley. In our podcast, we will explore our relationship with money and how the psychology of it impacts our financial decisions, as everyone thinks about money differently. We will be presenting a variety of financial topics in an easy-to-understand way, which we hope will assist you in managing your money. Hi everybody, welcome to Know Your Money. Today's episode is about a money roadmap. So we've spoken about your first money memory, and this episode is kind of the roadmap, or where does the road start, and what were the first lessons that you can remember. And it's the ones that come up first to mind. It doesn't have to be your lifelong lessons, but Warren, what do you think you've learnt from your mom and your dad?
So when I was young, I think we spoke about my money memory was the piggy bank. And
who was that, mom or dad? Or
that was mom, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But then as far as my lessons in money were definitely through both parents was the value of money. How
did they teach you that lesson?
Very interesting. So I did go to a private school here in South Africa before I left for England, and I started playing soccer. And obviously all the other kids who, came from money, got the brand new Nike fancy boots. And I remember going to the shop with my mom to buy my first pair of soccer boots, and she said, these ones, and they were the cheap ones. And I said, well, why, Mom? She goes, if you like it and you stick with it, then maybe we'll get you nicer ones, but these will do just fine. And that has always stuck with me, that moment, that understanding of you can't just throw money at things, you can't be reckless with money, and also then the lessons of my parents came from very humble beginnings. My dad came from very humble beginnings and has done incredibly well for himself. So there's always been this respect with me with the value of money and how it should be used.
Okay.
That's probably sort of how I was taught with it, yeah.
Okay. But just one thing on that just made me think straight away, and you don't have to add this in if you don't want
That's
to.
fine, yeah.
But what you've just said there is they taught you the value of money, but they made you always kind of get the cheapest shoes and those kind of things. So where that has come into your life now is you don't value yourself enough to charge more because you feel like you should charge the cheapest. So lessons do always come with a counter lesson.
Yeah.
And you it's great that you've learned that lesson because that was your starting combination. And now the next is that you must learn to value yourself and that it is okay sometimes to get the nicer thing, if that makes sense.
I agree, yeah, because I did, as I said, it's almost become a fear of mine. And yeah, when I look to buy something, I will never buy a premium brand unless I know it's going to last me 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if it's a car or something like that.
And that's completely okay. It's just how you value yourself. So how much do you charge people? What do
Not
you
enough.
do? Exactly. So it's that side I'm talking about, not necessarily your purchasing side, but now your actual other side, if that makes sense.
The other side of the value. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you, Craig?
There were three teachers now that I think about it. My dad, my mom, and my granny. My granny was my mom's mother, but she was a gambler.
Okay.
Which wasn't great, which led my mom to move house many times in her life. And her main goal was when she got married and had a family to stay in the same house. So we stayed our whole life, schooling life, in the same house. She was adamant that we weren't going to move because she moved about 9 times in her life. So disruptive. So it was my granny's gambling and the disruption in her house that caused her to put the roots down, stability. Then she said to me, well, you have to have a stable job. Join a big company, join a bank, get a pension, work hard for 30 years, and you'll be okay. But my dad was completely the opposite. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was the guy that said, use the bank's money. And he had a great business going for him. Unfortunately, it didn't last. he was too much of use the bank's money and took too many risks. He didn't put enough away for the future. So I think my money lessons a bit of both, that I enjoy the own business side of having our own practice, but I make sure that there's savings for the future. So I think those are the two main lessons that I've learned. And the one definite one is gambling is an absolute no-no.
Okay. But also with that, some people might struggle with that, and gambling can be a thing, but the lesson is to overcome that. Try not let that be a part of who you are. And how do you do that? And I think that's where this roadmap kind of starts. So for you, or for your mom, she saw her mom gambling and she chose the other road. She
Correct.
chose the fork in the road.
Correct.
And some other people sometimes can't choose the opposite fork to what you've been taught, if that makes any sense. And if you have chosen a different way, just remember it's a roadmap. There's still a pathway to go, and you just have to move it and carve it in the way that works. I think that's sort of important. And where I come to from that is, I don't think my lessons were good lessons from either parent.
Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so my mom was a very big gambler. My parents never got married, so I would see my mom sometimes on weekends, and not a Debbie Downer, but sometimes when I went there, she would tell my dad, no, I must rather go back home because she once, she was gambling. So it was that rooted gambling. So I did get a thrill of money from my mom, I think, from a lesson in that way. We'd go to the arcade, and I don't know how many teddy bears I'd win out of that. That claw machine. And that the lesson I got from that is that money can make you feel alive in a way. And from my dad, I definitely think the lesson that I got from him is that money can be made easily. He's always been the type of person that there's always money and it's always there, but it's not necessarily lessons on keeping money from either of my parents. And that's where this roadmap, I think, is so important, because there's certain things that you learn on the road that you need to learn so that you can keep that with you to go to the next thing. So, for example, I find it easy to receive money because of those lessons I learned from both parents. Keeping money was not their path necessarily. So I've made my own path on how to keep it, and now the next journey is how to grow that. So I think the take home of this roadmap kind of thing is to figure out, where is it again? So is your roadmap on keeping, receiving, growing, and how can you change it if you need to?
But I think that the importance is that you sit and think back on your memories and who taught you what.
Yes.
Was it an uncle, a friend, mom or dad? And that's how your habits have been instilled in you, and how you treat money and your future as well.
I think as far as the future goes, it's also, once you've identified where you've come from, it's to find your balance in the future. So where you need to work.
Yep.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Identify those
Exactly.
habits and make changes from that.
And you can make the changes. That's very, very
It's never
important.
too late, Craig?
Exactly. That's good.
Thanks so much, guys.
Guys,
Chat
have
soon.
a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Be well. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe or visit our website, www.growthfp.co.za. The information we have provided in this podcast is our personal opinion. For more detailed information, please discuss your financial situation with a financial planner.